Justin was going into the room for item number 1, so I'll assume he's in person.
Justin is down there, and I'm on as well as Morris.
Okay, great. And then Jean and your team are together?
Yes, we're here.
Okay. Captain Roberts, are you on?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay. And then, are you on?
Just downstairs.
Okay, and I know the chairman's going to go through this, and if you're not needed after the opening, we'll release you when you go through the staff report list. Is there anybody else on that I missed?
Sandy Marshall.
As expected. Greg Spearman, are you on? Check with Greg offline. Russell, are you on?
I'm standing by, sir.
Thank you. I think we're in a good spot.
Awesome, thank you. Just a rundown. Carlson, I don't think that's
Here.
Petro.
Here.
Thank you. Gangsfelder, are you still there?
Oh, here.
Thank you. Good.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Vieira.
Okay. Here.
Okay, thank you.
It's 9 o'clock. Shall we go ahead and start? Clerk? We can go? All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. Instead of the invocation, we will have a moment of silence. So a moment of silence, please. And if you can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
My name is Alexander Enkelman. I'm a resident of H.
All right, roll call, please.
Vieira.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Dingfelder.
Here.
Petro.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here. All right, before we go to the approval of the agenda and the addendum, Mr. Shelby, if you could read the statement.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. This morning's virtual meeting is being held during the COVID-19 state of emergency in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 20-69, as extended by EO 20-123, and by City Council Resolution 2020-225, which established emergency rules of procedure for the conduct of meetings such as this using communications media technology. Links to both documents are available on the City Council's webpage at tampagov.net/city-council, along with a link to instructions for public comment. Those instructions are also included within the agenda and also available online through the link on the City Council's webpage. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda and the addendum to the
So
agenda?
moved, Mr. Chairman. Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. All in favor? Roll call, please.
Viera,
Yay.
Goode,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Here, yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
All right, well,
Motion
first,
carried.
go ahead. Clerk, go ahead. It sounded unanimous to me because
Yes,
we did
it
that
was
roll call.
unanimous.
All right, first I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here, the four members in person on such short notice regarding this issue that has come up regarding the University of Tampa. We're going to take this up first. If the legal department or whomever would like to present, would like to go ahead with that.
Good morning, Chairman and members of City Council. I'm Justin Baskey, Assistant City Attorney. I'm here to walk on a resolution for approval by City Council.
The microphone's not on.
The original resolution number 2020-
Wait, the mic is not on.
Good morning, members of City Council and Chairman. I am Justin Baskey, Assistant City Attorney. I'm here to walk on a resolution for approval by City Council. The original resolution, 2020-2024, adopted in April, approved the University of Tampa conduit bond issue. This original resolution provided for a not-to-exceed rate of 4%. Unfortunately, the financial markets have been volatile, and interest rates on bonds have increased over the not-to-exceed rate that was in the original resolution. Currently, the university is advised that the interest rate for the bond issue would be 4.22%. Therefore, I'm requesting that City Council approve the amending resolution that increases the interest rate to 5%. This amending resolution has been provided to the city clerk. I am here, and Grace Dunlap is here, bond counsel for UT, to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from council members? Any questions of Councilmember Carlson?
Yeah, I know you did this before, but just in case anybody's watching for the first time, can you just explain that the city has no liability in this?
Thank you.
Yeah, that is correct. In terms of this bond issue, the city has no liability. It's not an obligation of the city. It's not considered a debt of the city.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and please clarify
Councilman
that.
Citro?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are just a pass-through.
That is correct.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
All right, any other council members via telephone have any questions or comments?
None, sir.
All right,
Mr.
seeing
Chairman,
none,
Mr.
Councilmember
Chairman?
Citro, would you like to read this resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a long one. I will.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
can you
sir.
hear me?
Yes.
This is Martin Shelby. If I can, the resolution is a long one. It does not have to be read by title. Is that correct, Mr. Vasky?
It doesn't need to be read by title.
All right, so
No, it
just,
doesn't need to be read. It just needs to be moved. But while I have this opportunity, I would just like to remind council that this walk-on item is being done with a physical quorum present in chambers because of the bond requirements. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, you'll explain what's going to happen after you take this item up. That being said, just for the purposes of the record, the four members present are you, Mr. Chairman, Chair Pro Tem Citro, Councilman Miranda, and Councilman Carlson. Is that correct?
yes, sir. Those are the members physically present in the chambers.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
All right, so Councilman Citro just moved the resolution.
I'm glad I don't have to read this resolution. Thank you very much. I'll move the resolution. Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Citro with a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Now, that concludes the physical quorum of 4 members here. If I could take, before we continue with the agenda, take a 5-minute recess so that we can go our separate ways and dial in by telephone and continue this meeting virtually. So I call for a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
And council, if I can, just a
There were requests for some members of the staff to answer questions, although memos were sent out. Just want to go through the agenda real quick. Item 12 was pulled for just comment, but no staff needs to be present. To clarify, for number 18, I believe Councilmember Dingfelder had sent an email out. Councilman Dingfelder, do you need Gene Duncan or Brad Baird present virtually here for item number 18?
Yes, just that, Brad Baird. Is that 18 is,
The $30 million.
yeah, just Brad Baird's fine.
All right, now for the rest of the staff reports, we have Chief Dugan for 50 and 51, Vic Bidet for 52, and then we have a memo from Chuck Weber for 53. On any of those staff reports, do any council members need to have those individuals present for any questions, or are they happy with the memos that were sent?
Chairman Dingfelder, I've requested Mr. Bidet to be present to discuss the Bayshore.
Okay. Anybody else or any other individuals need be present for the rest of the staff reports? Are we satisfied with the memos? All right, seeing none, so we have Vic present for the Bayshore discussion for item 52, and then for item number 18, I believe it would be Brad Baird or anyone in regards to that $30 million when we get to it in the consent agenda. So I'd like to start off before we go to public comment. We have an item, a ceremonial activity for the Gold Star families that is to be rescheduled. That was brought on by Councilmember Vieira. Councilmember Vieira, do you have any comments or questions regarding that item?
Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, obviously, given our telephonic status, et cetera, I'm going to move, if I may, to have this removed. I would like to advise the public, as I've been promoting it, that tomorrow, in fact, at 3 p.m., we're having a town hall. It's going to be virtual. You can see folks, et cetera, with 4 Gold Star families who are there going to be speaking about what Memorial Day means to them. They're also going to be joined by our friend Colonel DJ Reyes. So what I would encourage everyone to follow up with my office or the city of Tampa, if you'd like to, regarding this Memorial Day event that we're going to be putting on, as it's a good time to listen to families who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. But with that, Mr. Chair, if I may, I would like to do a motion, if need be, to remove that from the agenda.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Vieira. Do we have a second?
Miranda, second.
We have a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote, please.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cedro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to public comment. I believe the clerk is handling that. We do have some individuals with public comment. If we could go and start that.
Yes, Chair, good morning. We have one live public commenter and we have one message to be played. We'll begin with the live commenter, which is Aaron Elser.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Erin Elser. I reside at 2519 Crowder Lane. And I just want to say I do appreciate the motion set forth by City Council last month. And I'm here today just to call on our elected officials to rally together in support of reimagining Bayshore with lower speed limits, increased patrolling, more traffic lights, and in an ideal world, closing the waterside lanes to create separation between vehicles and pedestrians so we can truly enjoy Bayshore for what it is, a precious natural resource and public space meant for an active and healthy community. I am in full support of piloting a closed street program for Bayshore for 1 day a month, and I look forward to finding a creative solution to increase safety both for pedestrians and drivers alike on our Bayshore Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to the one public comment message from Alexander Elderman.
Ms. Alexander Engelman. I'm a resident of 825 Bayshore Boulevard in Tampa 33606, and I'm speaking on agenda item 52 for Thursday, the 21st of May's council meeting regarding Bayshore Boulevard and open streets throughout the city. I thank the council and Transportation Director Bide for addressing this issue, and especially considering your full agenda for today, I'll keep my comments limited. I encourage council to hear Director Bide's presentation on activating streets for pedestrian and public use throughout our city, and specifically support the open streets concept on Bayshore as a recognition for the lives lost on this street, and in support of the advocacy of the thousands of people who've signed a motion to make Bayshore a safer street. I ask that council consider broadening the pilot segment of this closure to include Swan through Bay to Bay as opposed to Rome through Bay to Bay, remembering that these sections also close for races and walks, and that an open street solution can also provide a cost-effective solution for event closure as well. I also ask council to charge city staff that the pilot be a recurring event until a final program can be determined. Thank you again for hearing this very important issue to our community, and thank you for your service.
Chair, that concludes the public comment portion of the meeting.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, could I is it okay to make a comment?
Is this Councilmember Carlson?
Carlson, yes.
Go ahead.
Just, there's a lot of confusion in the public, and just in case people are watching right now about the Bayshore issue, unless one of my colleagues is going to make a motion later on, the Bayshore discussion today was based on Councilman Dingfelder's motion to ask the mayor to consider closing Bayshore once a month. But there was another motion that I made and you all agreed to, which is to look more comprehensively at Bayshore and to have city staff come back and give a recommendation for the comprehensive look at Bayshore. And so I think the first motion was to ask the mayor to make a decision. And I don't know that we're going to make any decisions on that today because we had asked the mayor to make a decision. But on the second one, I'm going to make a motion at the end to go ahead and schedule that after having talked to the mobility department. So anybody who happens to be watching for the public, please watch the whole meeting anyway. But if you're interested in following the issue about safety, the mobility department is analyzing the feedback from the public in our 4-hour meeting, and they're going to be getting back to us in a couple months. So that'll be maybe a better communicated meeting so people can give input at that time.
All right, thank you very much. And we'll have that discussion on Bayshore at the end of this agenda. We have Vic standing by, so we'll get to that and we'll go into deeper discussion. Now we have requests by the public for reconsideration of legislative matters. Seeing none, we begin with our committee reports and the consent agenda. We begin with public safety and Councilmember Citro. Now remember that item number 5 is a substitute resolution. Go ahead, Councilman Citro.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am moving items agenda 2, 3, 4, and 6 with the substitute of 5.
All right, do we have a second to that motion?
Second, Miranda.
Second, Councilman.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next is Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Committee, Councilmember Goods.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your leadership this morning. I move items numbers 7 to 10.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Goods. Do we have a second?
Second by Miranda.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Viera,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Petro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, moving on to the Public Works Committee, before we take it up for a vote, item number 12 was requested to be pulled by Councilmember Carlson just for comment. Councilmember Carlson, if you'd like to speak on item number 12, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say the Public Works Department was very good about proactively approaching me in a transparent way, discussing this with me. This issue, although it doesn't really say it in the summary, in the detail, it's about the TAP project, which you all know that I'm against, and I think the vast majority of the public is against. One thing I would ask is that in the future, in the summary on the agenda, that if there is something related to TAP, that we clearly state it so that the public can see that. But also, we voted a year ago to put discussions about TAP on hold. This is a pre-existing agreement with SwiftMud that goes back to 2018, and so I don't object to this. It's actually a delay in the study going on. I think that with all the engineering science that's going on nationally and internationally about this subject, I think that the proposal that has been on the table is not going to go forward, and regardless of what the testing says, it's not that particular project is not going to go forward. But it sounds like we would be liable if we don't move forward with this as it is. And so look forward to having more robust discussions about this topic in the future. But I know that there are many people in the community who were alarmed by this agenda item because they found it on their own. And I just want to assure them this is not, I'm going to vote for this only because it's to honor a pre-existing contract, but it's not in any way on my part endorsing this project going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Before we continue with any voting, I know item 18, request by Councilmember Dingfelder, and it's a two-part item, 18 and 19, but the request was 18. If we have anybody from staff here to take any questions on that $30 million project.
Hello, this is Brad Baird, Deputy Administrator of Infrastructure. I'll take any questions on that item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is John Dingfelder, Committee Chair. And yeah, I just wanted to, before I move all of these items, I just wanted, this one is part of our PIPES program. Somebody's got feedback or something. I don't know what that is. Anyway, and Mr. Baird, good morning. If you could explain a little bit how this fits into the PIPES program. It's a $30 million project. I also wanted, for future reference, to make sure that anything large like this gets dropped off of consent and moved into it automatically into staff reports, because I think that's where it's supposed to be. And thirdly, Mr. Baird, if you could reiterate probably what you said 2 weeks ago in regard to the MBE participation, anticipated participation for this particular item. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Dingfelder, thank you. This item is the initial engineering services that takes us through the design for the master plan project at the David L. Tippin water treatment facility that involves quite a few facilities out there that we're improving or rehabilitating. There's a whole list of them on the fact sheet that I shared with City Council, or that Gene Duncan shared with City Council this week. And the initial services are amount to the $30 million, and the entire project at this point is estimated to be $300 million. So that's 10% of the entire project amount. And I do want to say, with regard to the EBO participation, that the participation or the commitment by the Tippin team and the prime engineers, which are CDM Smith and Carollo, is 27% for WMBE and SLBE participation, which is very good. In my career, I don't think I've seen participation at that level for the initial engineering services. So that's very, very promising and very positive. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilman Dingfelder, any other questions?
Just a final comment. The $300 million is a huge amount. I think it's probably the biggest project the city's ever undergone. We all took a tour last year of the water plant, and we saw a lot of facilities that went back 30, 40, 50, or even some of them 100 years that needed rebuilding and or replacing. And obviously, this is a huge need. The Tippin plant provides the vast majority of the water for the city of Tampa and for some of our neighboring communities. And obviously, we have to maintain it and keep it up to speed. So anyway, I congratulate the department for working on this for a long time. It's a lot of money. Folks are paying for it on their water bill and will continue to pay for it on their water bill for many years. But I think it's worthwhile. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be glad to move those
Mr. Chair,
items.
Mr. Chair,
Wait, Councilmember Goods?
may be recognized, sir.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Well, as Mr. Dingfelder said, this is a big project with a lot of money. But like I've always said, how are we going to monitor the participation? What is the mechanism that we're going to use to make sure that we are doing what we say we're going to do? That's my biggest concern with this type of money. I want to know what is the process and how are we going to monitor this?
This is Brad Baird.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Tippin team and the prime engineers will be submitting monthly invoices, and with that, they will be reporting on the EBO participation and the actual participation of the sub-consultants and subcontractors that are part of the team. In addition, of course, we'll have full-time inspection on site of the project, and we will be monitoring, which contractors are being used and which sub-consultants are being used as well. So that will be the process, and we'll, every month we'll work with the EBO office to ensure that the commitment that they made is being met.
Well, thank you, Brad, for that. I mean, you can always turn in paperwork, but I just want to make sure that we're visually inspecting it and seeing what we need to see on the job site that we're putting out this type of money. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
All right, Councilmember Dingfelder, if there are no further questions, would you like to move items 11 through 19? Councilman Dingfelder?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and Councilman Goods, I appreciate that comment. I think it's a very, very good point. I know you and I and other council members have pushed very hard this past year to make sure we push those the minority business and small business numbers higher, and I'm thrilled that this particular portion of the project is showing great improvement. But I think what is that expression, Mr. Miranda, about trust and verify? And Mr. Goods makes a good point that we got to be vigilant on verifying those numbers. So we will all continue to be vigilant on that. I'll move those items 11 through, what was it, Mr. Chairman? 11 through...
Miranda, second.
19.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 11 through 19.
All right. We have a motion,
Miranda,
Councilmember Dingfelder, with a second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have the Finance Committee. Councilmember Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move items 20 through 23, sir.
All right, do we have a second to
Second.
that?
Second.
Second from
Citro.
Councilmember Citro. All right, roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
motion carried unanimously.
Great. Now we go to Building, Zoning, and Preservation Committee. That is Councilmember Carlson for items 24 through 45. If you'd like to move those items.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move items 24 through 45, please.
All right, do we have a second?
Miranda.
Councilmember Miranda, roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, final committee is Transportation, and that is Councilmember Vieira for item number 46.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hereby move the sole solitary item 46.
All right, do we have a second?
Second, Miranda.
All right, roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes, with a quick comment. I'm not a big fan of single source. This particular item, it looks like the department is trying to standardize to a particular street sweeper for maintenance purposes, and also lease these for 4 years, so we can turn it back in and get a new one every 4 years. So I'm not a big fan of single source, but I'll support this one under these conditions. Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
motion carried unanimously.
All righty, that concludes the consent agenda. We go for items being set for public hearings. Item number 47, if you notice at the bottom, it says public hearing is to be held by a hearing officer, so that does not come before council. But we still need a motion to move this resolution, if we can have a motion to that effect.
So move.
All right,
Second.
we have,
Chairman.
we have
Miranda,
a
move it
Councilman Miranda, do we have a second?
to June
Second,
1st,
Citro.
2020.
All right, with a second from Councilmember Citro, roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
motion carried unanimously.
All right. Next is item number 48. We have setting public hearings for June 4th, 2020 at 10:30 a.m. and June 25th, 2020 at 9:30 a.m. at the Convention Center. Do we have a motion to move that resolution?
Motion, Mr. Chairman, to move exactly what you said, June the 4th, those hearings, and June the 25th of 2020 at June 4th of 2020 at 10:30, and the one June 25th at 9:30 a.m. at the Convention Center at 33-3 South Franklin Avenue, rooms 14 through 17, first floor, channel side entrance.
All right. Do we have
Citro, second.
second from Councilmember Goods? I think I heard first. Roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, the final item for, to set is item number 49. It is a review hearing to be scheduled for August 6, 2020 at 10:30 a.m. Do I have a motion to move that?
So moved, Miranda. Have that hearing, August the 6th, 2020 at 10:30 a.m.
All right, do we have a second?
Second, Councilman Goods.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Tetro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, next we go to staff reports. That concludes the voting portion of that the agenda. Are there any questions for items number 50? There was a memo from Chief Dugan from T. Any follow-up or anything from any council members? All right, hearing none. Item number 51, same as well from Police Chief Dugan. Memo was sent. Any comments or questions by council members? Okay. All right, if we can get a motion to move resolution for item number 50. We have a all right, we have a motion from Councilmember Goods. Do we have a second?
Second by Miranda.
With a second from Councilmember Miranda, roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Tetro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, item number 51 is part 2 of that series. Do we have a motion to move that resolution for 51?
Motion move, Councilman Goods.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Goods. Do we have a second?
Second, Miranda.
Second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Tetro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, we're going to jump ahead to item number 53. A memo was sent by Chuck Weber from the Water Department. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing or hearing none. Item number 54 was a 10-minute presentation from the Planning Commission, but a memo was sent out requesting that this be scheduled for a later date, considering the circumstances of COVID-19 and whatnot. So that settles that. We have item number 52, which is the Bayshore discussion, and I believe we have Vic standing by to answer any questions. I know a memo was sent out, and we'll begin. Vic, if you're there.
Yes, good morning, Chair, and good morning, Council. Item 52 is related to a motion by Councilman Dingfelder that requests the mayor to consider closing northbound section of Bayshore and any other roads identified according to staff report beginning in the month of June, 1 day a week on Sundays for pedestrians. So this is part of a broader program that we have already, which was initiated as part of the Mayor's Transforming Campus Tomorrow initiative. If you recall, there was a transportation committee as part of that. That was the first committee to kick off. And I'm going to read a recommendation from that. It was to develop a city-sponsored program that makes it easier and simpler for engaging community members to work with the city to host activities and events that activate city streets as dynamic public spaces. That was the specific recommendation. I highlight that because that is our mandate. This is something we look forward to doing. street activation is actually currently under deployment as part of the Lift Up Local program as well. Generally, there are three types of street activations that we look at. One is for play. These could be typically local streets. The other is main streets. That's like Lift Up Local for either cultural or commercial activities. And the third type is open streets. And those are reallocating the public realm for different modes like pedestrians and bicyclists, which is what was proposed in this motion. So I just wanted to highlight that this is part of our methodology. This is part of our tactical urbanism program. And there are three aspects to this program that we use towards determining what the sites are. The primary concern or the primary measure is community engagement, or listening to the community, understanding what they want at any given location. That's how we do site selection. There are many other considerations as well. Is this a city or county-owned roadway? Who do we need to coordinate with? What are the traffic impacts and detours? The number of driveways along for access to make sure that we're not creating secondary impacts. Emergency and transit access, that's a key consideration as well. What sort of resources are available from the community? Is there volunteer support? Because cost is a significant consideration. Level of activation, and the type of events that we would support. So this is being discussed within the city, and a presentation to this effect was attached with our staff report. Currently, we do not have a schedule for implementing any type of open streets closures, given the public health emergency that we're going through. And really the concern here is to limit any kind of congregation. This is consistent with the administration's position, and we continue to look for opportunities to support this program as we are doing in other ways with the Main Streets concept. So at this point, I'm available for any questions or any other thoughts. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Who would
Mr.
like to
Chairman,
begin?
Miranda.
All right, go ahead, sir. Councilman Miranda.
Yeah, can I speak to the questions that he brought up, some of the things? May I, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm one that looks, I like to have facts in front of me before I make a decision, and I haven't not been supportive of this because I have no facts. And let me tell you what the facts that I'm looking at. Has there ever been a study done on the amount of traffic that's on Bayshore now, where it's going to go, how it's going to get there, and what is going to be impact to the total area of that part of the city? When you look at the traffic today on Gandy Boulevard, and you look from Himes and from MacDill, from Gandy north, what kind of impacts are going to happen to those neighborhoods? And what kind of impact we're going to have, not on Bayshore, but just north of, west of Bayshore. We're closing, if I understand it right, the two east lanes on the Bayshore. The two west lanes, I imagine, are going to be open. I'm not sure. So what I'm saying is, have we done a study to determine what's going to happen to the area? Have we done a study to determine if this does happen, where the people are going to park? Because once you close that road, it's everybody's road, not just the people from Bayshore. And I know that, and they know that, and I'm glad to see that. However, where are they going to park? What about if 200 people, 200 cars show up? Can you tell me where the cars are going to park? Or 1,000 cars, where they're going to park? Can you tell me if there's any bathrooms or restrooms going to be open up? Is there any refreshments so that people can drink and eat? I don't understand the whole logic because no one's explained it. If you can get all those answers for us, then maybe we can have a unanimous vote. But this operation, without a study, without knowledge of the facts, is just something to me that I just don't sponsor because I can't vote that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other council members?
Yes.
Who's that, Dingfelder?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Just a little bit of clarification from Mr. Bide. And Mr. Miranda, I totally appreciate your comments, having formerly been the South Tampa representative. I'm very, very aware and concerned of the traffic issues and the parking issues that this could impact down in the South End. However, what I heard from Mr. Bide was that if we did this, if the city did this one Sunday a month, just on an experimental basis, they were talking about doing it from Rome north toward downtown. Mr. Bide, can you confirm that? And I have a few other comments, Mr. Chairman.
So I can confirm that the motion was for a closure once a week, and that is consistent with general open streets
Once a month.
Once a month. Sorry, one Sunday a month. Sorry. Yes, there is only one Sunday a week. Sorry. So this is consistent with open streets methodologies. It is temporal, but having said that, while we have looked at some concepts previously, we don't know the exact limits at this point for all of the considerations stated previously, including if a lot of people do show up, then where will they park? And so that's a valid concern as well. So at this point, we haven't really done a deep dive, and not just this location, any other locations within the city. We do look at this as a citywide program, because one of the things that this program informs us is how this facility would operate with any kind of constraints. It's experimentation as well. And to another point that Councilman Miranda mentioned, which was, has a study been conducted on Bayshore to understand how this facility would operate? On a long-term basis, we're actually working with several stakeholders to conduct and review such a study right now.
Mr. Bide, I thought I read somewhere or heard somewhere that this was Rome to the north to downtown.
This may have been a previous concept, but at this point, we don't really have any set or clear limits. I mean, we would need to do a deeper dive in this and other roadways.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I just had a couple other comments.
Go ahead, sir.
Miranda again, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, sir.
As was just said now, they're looking at a study, but that study is not complete. I'm not saying not to vote on this. What I'm saying is there's no study done that's completed today, yet this is on the agenda. It's Rome North, and I maybe I missed that closure. So what's happened on Rome South? Is that still going to be available for people to travel with cars? And if they are, they can't certainly continue on Bayshore heading north. So what are they going to do? Go into the neighborhood? I don't quite grasp the whole thing. And maybe it's me, but I'm looking at it broad term, and then I'm looking at other things. You know, when you start closing streets, and I'm not against your program, but when you start closing streets, that means that some other place in the city is going to want the same amenities that the good people in Bayshore have. How are you going to address that if 5 places or four of the districts make up the whole city, 4, 5, 6, and 7? So if somebody in those districts wants to do the same thing, that's what we're going to do? And how are we going to provide the lighting, the streets, the officers? Where's all that income coming from to do all that? I don't know. I'm not trying to be all against anything. I just want facts. I deal with facts, and I don't have any facts. But it's all right. I'm not opposed to taking a vote today. I understand the process.
All right. Any response to that, Vic?
I agree that we do need to understand all the factors in any kind of open streets deployment. On Bayshore, what we do know in terms of facts are volumes on a Sunday are lower. So the early indications are it's not infeasible, but we do have to consider the timing of this, and we do have to consider community input. We did hear from the community during the workshop a few weeks back, but there were two aspects to it. One was, what are we doing from a safety standpoint to improve the safety on Bayshore? And we did present actions that we're going to take, and the open streets is not necessarily the same discussion.
Mr.
All
Chairman,
right.
you recognize Councilman Goose?
Mr. Chairman, you had recognized me, but I'll defer to Mr. Goods at
All right,
some point. Come back to me.
I'll take you after Councilmember Goods. Councilmember Goods, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again. I believe the original motion, and I think it had some things added that we were looking at not just Bayshore, which I understand Bayshore has some concerns, but I thought the issue was the city as a whole. And I remember Mr. Mann just stated that as well, that we were looking to make sure we're looking at the whole city collectively, because you do have 3 other districts. So I'm hearing Bayshore today, but I thought the study was to be for the whole city as a whole. So if Vic can tell me about that.
Councilman, I can confirm that our approach, be it for street activation, be it for safety, be it for Vision Zero, is citywide. And we look at what are our priorities from a citywide perspective. And to that point, during the previous workshop, we presented slides of the top 20 corridor locations, and we continue to look at it in terms of what the priorities are and where the needs are within the city to apply Vision Zero policies.
And I don't know if Mr. Dingfeld, Mr. Carlson are going to put a motion for the vote on this today, but I'm hoping if after hearing all the comments from all the councilmen that we may wait a little bit so we can get some facts of the whole city and the Bayshore situation. And it's just my suggestion. I just want to hear a little bit more, and I think Mr. Dingfeld will probably follow up with something, I'm sure.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to say something too, when maybe after Mr. Dingfeld.
After Councilmember Goods, have you finished?
Yes, I yield back. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Councilmember Dingfelder, I know you had requested to speak before. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're doing fine. Listen, a couple of things. Number one, Mr. Miranda, we all want facts, and obviously the city's not going to do anything willy-nilly until they fully investigate and evaluate the impacts of a simple Sunday, one Sunday a month program. So we're all in agreement. We want facts, and we want to know what those impacts are. But we're also, I don't think we're voting on anything today. Council had already expressed its interest in doing this and urging the administration to pursue it, and that was done a few weeks ago. So I don't know that we're voting today. Mr. Bide, a couple of other follow-up questions. I don't think this is unique to Tampa. I think what I've heard and read is that these sort of street activation programs are going on nationally and internationally. If you could confirm that, that'd be fine. Also, another question is, last year and the year before, how often do we shut down Bayshore for races, parades, etc.? At least some or a large portion of the Bayshore. It's my recollection, and this goes through council every year, that we shut it down at least, it feels like at least a half dozen times a year for various races and stuff like that. So this isn't really novel, but Mr. Bide, if you could confirm that, or Ms. Duncan. And then the last point is, the mayor has decided, consistent with the rest of her COVID program, that this is not something that's happening right now because of the health concerns. So until we get back to 100% level and the health emergency is, I guess, is deemed over, which I don't necessarily agree with the governor and the president on that, but that's their issue. But until those health concerns pass, I don't think the city's doing anything. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear. But we can continue to research this and plan for it down the road. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Dingfelder. Councilmember Carlson.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
And
Chair.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Vieira, if I may go after the last person. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Councilman Carlson, then we have Councilmember Vieira.
Okay, thank you, Chair. As I said in the beginning, I think the public's confused. I think we're even confused because after the 4 hours of feedback from the public, we made two different motions, and this one that Councilman Dingfelder made is a specific solution, and the other motion, which I made, and you all, I think, unanimously agreed to both of them when we passed them. But the second one was to ask the mobility department to come back to us to present their larger recommendations for Bayshore and speeding throughout the city. That's what Councilman Goods was referring to. I think Councilman Dingfelder's motion was specifically just about this one piece. And the intent of having that big workshop was so that the mobility department could take that information and come back to us with some recommendations. I had a long conversation with Vic yesterday, and they've got a citywide mobility study going on. They've got interlocal conversations going on because the Bayshore, for example, is a county road. The mayor has signed on to Complete Streets and other programs. Then we've got the funding analysis. If Offer Transportation doesn't come through, what do we do about that? So there are all these different pieces going on. I think the thing that I said to Vic yesterday, and I'll say to you all, I think the public has been demanding answers, and there may be a lot going on already, or it may be that some decisions will be made directly as a result of that workshop. But at some point, we need the city staff to come back and tell us, and at the same time, really, they're talking to the public about either what they're doing or what decisions they've made as a result of public feedback. And we passed that motion unanimously. In the motion, I said that we should leave the scheduling up to the mobility department and the chair. However, I'd like to, I could do it now or I can do it at the end. I'd like to make a motion to specifically schedule that meeting maybe September 3rd, which should give everybody enough time. There's not going to be a perfect answer for all of this because it's an ongoing thing, and with the budgets changing and traffic changing and population numbers changing, but we've got to take a snapshot in time and give the public information about what decisions are being made. A lot of important and positive decisions are being made, but I think the public doesn't know about it yet. And so what we need to do is to follow through with the other motion from that meeting and make sure that we talk about it. I hope at that meeting that maybe Vic and his team could talk about Mr. Dingfelder's motion as well, and maybe that could be a part of it. Parallel to the transportation discussion, there are other discussions going on about parks, but maybe this issue can be addressed then. So at some point, I'd like to make the motion just to schedule a meeting that we had already unanimously passed that we should schedule. But just for the public listening, there's a lot of confusion because I think the public thinks that this closing once a Sunday is our solution for safety on Bayshore, and it's not at all. It was just a specific idea, but it wasn't the safety conversation. And also a lot of people from the public still want to weigh in on whatever is recommended or whatever the city is planning. And so if we schedule that second meeting for September 3rd, it will not only be a chance for the mobility department to present, but also for the public to give robust feedback. And then again, the mobility department can take that and use it or not use it. So whenever you think it's appropriate, I'll make the motion to schedule that.
Well, let's hold the motions until new business, which is coming up soon. So we'll take the motion up there. Anything else, Councilman Carlson?
Nope, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, in an interesting discussion, and I thank Councilman Carlson and Councilman Dingfelder for your two motions previously on this and for your leadership. You know, my vote in supporting this, as I indicated when we took the vote on the once a month issue, was predicated on two issues. Because I think that whenever we take votes, we never have or I shouldn't say never, but we often don't have all the information before us, and it's predicated on the administration and the different departments within the administration doing their due diligence, as has occurred, to give us the information that we need, as well as other foundations to be fulfilled. You know, I specifically cited, number one, community dialogue and support, and then number two, the numerous public safety issues that could be relevant to this, inquiring with police, fire, et cetera, on any actions that could be relevant to this. Again, pending these two, I'm supportive. With regard to community input, we've obviously gotten a lot of input on it. Some folks potentially see this as a foot in the door to something larger, and I think we need to define for the public what it is we are potentially suggesting doing and what it is we're potentially not suggesting doing. But it's certainly an idea that I think that I'm supportive of in terms of further having a dialogue and discussion on, as the administration has guided the geographical locations there near Bayshore. And as indicated before by Councilman Goods, who I believe it was brought this up, this original motion also took a look at inquiring with the three other different districts without specifying, as I recall, a specific location, and taking a look at areas in North and New Tampa, within East Tampa and the surrounding areas, within West Tampa and the surrounding areas, where this can as well occur, so that everybody, all sections of Tampa, can get the benefit of that type of an idea. So it's certainly an idea that I'm supportive of going on with further dialogue. I think it's something that could, pending those prefaces or foundations that I think we need to have met, I think that could be successful. But again, more dialogue and work certainly needed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any other council members with any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, if I may, Councilman Citro.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes. First of all, reading this, we are respectfully requesting the mayor to consider. That's what we are asking. As a resident who lives on Bayshore and Bayshore Beautiful, I am behind this 100%. But as in Councilman Miranda's discussion, I haven't had all the facts yet. It hasn't been presented to me the southbound lanes. Will those be turned into two-way street? Will traffic be allowed to go northbound on that southbound lane? If that would be the case, in my impression, it would be tougher to cross the street to get to the biking and the walkability of the northbound when it is closed. I don't have all the facts. I want to know where the parking is going to be for the visitors that come down to the jewel of Tampa, Bayshore Boulevard, to exercise, to walk, to spend time with their family. I have listened to some people who live in Bayshore Beautiful, that are concerned. I also want to know where the bathrooms are going to be, where we're going to get water refreshment, those type of things. I am concerned about the facts that I have yet to hear. I want to see this happen, but I want to know specifically how it's going to be done, so that my neighbors that live along Bayshore know how it's exactly going to be done. As a second part, through all this, I have heard concerns from citizens around this city in the several other districts who are also complaining about the safety of streets like Spruce, Armenia, and Howard in West Tampa, 40th Street in East Tampa, Bush, Hillsborough, Bruce B. Downs in North Tampa, and then other streets in South Tampa, such as Dale Mabry, Beta Bay, and Gandy in South Tampa. So I hope the other part of the discussions coming up will also talk about safety on other streets within the city. But in this matter alone, I live on Bayshore. I would like to see it open up one Sunday a month, but I need to know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to affect me and the citizens around Bayshore. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any other council members with comments or questions? All right, my 2 cents. We have to keep this discussion going because since 1946, and I say 1946 because that's when we took up the streetcar and we went to the bus service, and just the sign of the times post-World War II, where the focus turned to building the highways and the roads and the freedom of the automobile. But since that, and we're going over 70 years, the focus has been on the car and not the people. And we're one of the worst areas in the country for pedestrian fatalities. And it's not just Bayshore where people have died, but it's throughout the city of Tampa. And we've heard this time and time and again over the years. We have to become more people-centric instead of car-centric. And discussions like this and the dialogue that we have, we're opening that door, but we can't let this conversation die, and we have to keep moving it forward because we have to focus on the people and their safety. And I'm glad we're having this. I appreciate Councilmember Dingfelder bringing this up, Councilmember Carlson, and his support, and all the other council members in voicing their opinions. And of course, we need the facts. We don't want to move forward hastily, but we can't not move forward at all, because this is a very important and a very dangerous topic, because people are dying. This is life and death. Having said that, I believe that concludes that discussion on item number 52. If we could just go back to item 54. I know I brought it up regarding the Planning Commission 10-minute presentation to be postponed. Can I have unanimous consent that we can reschedule that to a future date? Anybody have any objection to that?
Can we just pick a date though, please?
I don't know. I mean, you had mentioned September, which is farther out. We have items scheduled for June at the convention center, which I'm going to bring up, ceremonial and whatnot. I think.
Yeah, I think it's too much to do it in June and July because we're backed up on land use issues.
Yeah.
But maybe we can put it in August or September.
Yeah, let's say September 3rd at 9 a.m. That's far enough away, and if we have to postpone it then, we'll look at it then. Hopefully things get back to a regular schedule by then. So
I'll make a motion that we move it to September 3rd, please.
All right.
Citro seconds.
All right. If you want to do a roll call vote, or we can have unanimous consent unless there's any objection to it.
Clarification on the motion.
So to reschedule the Planning Commission staff to appear for the 10-minute presentation for September 3rd, 9 a.m. Did you get that?
Yes, no objection.
All right. So,
A second?
and we did have a second. Who was the second on that?
Citro.
All right. So we have a motion from Councilman Carlson, second from Councilmember Citro. I guess a roll call vote on that.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right. That concludes our agenda. We go to information reports and visits of council members. I'm going to go down the line, and then I will ask if Council Attorney Shelby has any comments or questions. Start with Councilmember Dingfelder.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Carlson, when you make your motion in regard to the next presentation from the staff on this issue, I think you said something about September. I would request that you also that council request the appearance of MacDill, the appropriate personnel from MacDill, somebody out there perhaps who handles community relations or traffic, and also the Expressway Authority, the personal appearance from the Expressway Authority in regard also to possible, use of the expressway, increased use of the expressway. I know they have a program that they're starting up, and I think that would be helpful to the total discussion, at least in South Tampa. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Goods.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Again, two things I want council to be aware of. I emailed the mayor beginning of the week As you well aware know, that we've had a lot of violence in our community with these drive-by shootings, deaths that are occurring. And the Black elected officials met over the weekend to kind of discuss some items about it. And we're going to meet with the mayor on Friday at 1 p.m. with some possible solutions to some of the issues that are going on. And I want council to be aware of that because we may have to come back at a time to ask for some things from council, possibly. But I'm very disappointed. You know, the media covered the Curtis Hickson shooting, but I was at the shooting on 7th Avenue, Nebraska at the China One when a young man was shot in the doorway. Got no coverage on that. And it just bothered me very badly all week long. You know, a death is a death. A mother lost a child, father lost a child, a brother lost someone. So I just want council to be clear that we've got some issues going on. Any suggestions you may have or thoughts in the future, to let us know when we come back to you. But just want to make it clear that we just can't tolerate this in the city from young people just randomly shooting people. It's just not acceptable, and we've got to do something about it. Number two, we had a discussion early on item number 12. I didn't get a chance to get it across or Mr. Beard about it. Hopefully he's still listening. I won't make the motion today, but I'm hoping that he'll understand, or staff will understand, that we need to make sure that we have some type of inspector or monitor that will be monitoring this program. We'll make sure that who people are saying are on the job by taking photos, by making sure that we have a file that's created, that we actually have verified what's going on and who's on the job site. So I won't make the motion today as far as manpower, but I do still want to talk to Mr. Beard about that and make sure that we are actually verifying this type of money and the people on these jobs, because, you know, there's always a way to try to get around things. And this type of money and what we're trying to do to make sure we're helping our citizens, we want to make sure that everyone's getting an opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I yield back.
All right, thank you very much. Next is Councilmember Vieira. Do you have anything, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, taking myself off the speaker there. Just a couple of things, two things. One of them, many of us know Karen Clay and her late son, Michael Phillips. Karen, who many of us know and consider a friend, is a fierce advocate for people with disabilities and just good values, and is one of the best people I know. I consider her not only a good friend, but frankly, one of my personal heroes. Karen is blessed with, or has been blessed with, two sons. And not long ago, her son Mike, who many of us knew, Mike Phillips, passed on very tragically. Mike was a powerful voice for access to health care and for those with disabilities, whether intellectual disabilities or folks like him who had significant physical disabilities. Mike was a hero, no doubt about it, and his fight for respect and dignity for people with disabilities took him on a national scale, and it earned him the respect of people across our country. He was a national voice, and we ought to be proud that that national voice came right here from Tampa. We should do all that we can to honor the legacy of this special, special man. Again, he was a national voice who is nationally respected, and it came right here from Tampa. That path that he took was amazing, and we should be honoring it. We should be honoring it as much as we can. We should be proud as a city that Mike was one of ours, that he was from Tampa. I know that Mike's mother and brother are listening, Brian, are listening right now, and I know they miss Mike, and we miss him too, and we honor him. And that's why today I motioned for city staff to report on naming a city street after Michael Phillips, a well-known local advocate for access to health care and for those with disabilities. And I request that this report be brought before council if it's amenable with the chair on September 3rd, 2020.
That's a wonderful
seconds.
motion. Who seconds that?
Tetro seconds.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Vieira with a second from Councilmember Citro. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Tetro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
And,
All right.
and if I may, Mr. Chair, if I may just very briefly.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. And again, that Memorial Day is coming up on Monday, the 25th, I believe it is, and just for everyone to do what you can to honor the fallen and the families of the fallen. And again, that tomorrow at 3 p.m. We will be doing a Memorial Day town hall discussion with Gold Star families. We'll be having on there as well Colonel DJ Reyes, and we're also going to be having again 4 Gold Star parents: Annette Kirk, the mother of Paul Kazupi, who was killed in action in Afghanistan; Craig Gross, who some of y'all may remember, he spoke here last Memorial Day. And Craig is a great man, and he and his wife Tony are the proud parents of Army Corporal Frank Gross. Kelly Kowal, who is the mother of the late Army Specialist Corey Kowal, will be here, and Maureen and Philip Miller from Orlando, and their late son, Staff Sergeant Robert Miller, following his death, received the Medal of Honor, one of about 3,500 Americans to receive that honor, and they will be here as well on Friday for this town hall. And I would just encourage everyone to please, if you wish to be able to log in, to email me at louis.vieira@tampagov.net so that we can listen to the stories and the lives of these 4 important families. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, next up we have Councilmember Citro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First off, I'd like to make a motion that this office's intern, Miss Katarina, Koptenko, who was our intern this year from USF, I would like to present her, I already have presented her with accommodation. So if I can get a second on that motion, I would greatly appreciate that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Carlson. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Anything
Mr.
else,
Chair.
Mr. Citro?
Yes, she did a wonderful job, and it was a pleasure to have her around, as our interns always do, coming from USF. So I thank the council members for that. I'd also, if we could celebrate the birth of Master Benjamin Parker, who is the child of first-time parents of officers Colin and Jackie Parker of Tampa Police Department, District 2. Congratulations. This is the first time I've ever heard of active duty police officers within the city of Tampa having a child. I'm sure it's been done before, but congratulations to them. Benjamin was born. He weighed 6 pounds, 9 ounces, and measured a whopping 19 inches and 19 and a half inches long. So congratulations to these 2 proud TPD officers. Nothing further, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Miranda.
I missed that, Mr. Chairman.
Go
I have
ahead,
none.
sir, if you have any new business.
No new business, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Carlson, you have some motions.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So just for anybody who's watching related to Bayshore right now, sorry to belabor this, but just so everybody knows, the proposal to close once a month was not the solution for safety on Bayshore, and it was not the solution for speeding throughout. It was a separate idea, and and now we may be looking at both of them at the same time when we schedule this. But I made a motion on April 30th, which you all unanimously approved, and that says that the city staff be requested to review the public input during the city council special call meeting. Further, that city staff present and report to council on a date to be determined regarding their recommendations for how to fix the problems on Bayshore and speeding throughout the city. So I would like to make a motion today that is to request staff return to council September 3rd, 2020, in conjunction with the April 30th, 2020 motion. The staff will present their report after reviewing the public comment from the meeting with their recommendations for fixing the problems on Bayshore and speeding throughout the city.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Carlson. Do we have a second to that motion?
Dingfelder seconds, and with a friendly amendment to that the chairman request the appearance of the MacDill Air Force Base, appropriate personnel from MacDill Air Force Base and the Expressway Authority to so we can get their comments and input on this as well. The friendly amendment offered to Mr.
Do you agree with that, Councilmember Carlson? Is that fine?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Dingfelder. Roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Petro,
Yes, sir.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you all. Mr. Chair, one more.
Go ahead.
This is in relation to one of the consent agenda items today, and we didn't talk about this because it was on the consent agenda, but there was a request for, I think it was $11,000 or $12,000 for a manufacturing company that was looking to add employees and make a capital investment in our community. But if you read the notes of it, what it says in the notes is that it's really just I can't hear. Is everybody on mute? Sounds like there's an echo. Okay. The issue is that if you read the notes, it says that all we did is we approved for them to apply for the QTI program. That's the one the state of Florida issues for reimbursement of training, with the idea being that if the state invests in training instead of giving money to companies, that at least the employees will stay if the company leaves. But if you read the notes, it also says that QTI is canceled. And I did some research on this, and it was canceled by the legislature. The Florida Chamber, I think, is going to push to try to bring it back. But if you have read the reports on economic development that we get, when the city or county give incentives to companies, the only verification that we get as to whether the companies met the promises that they made is from the QTI information that goes in. So I think a rough number, about 30% of the companies that get incentives get QTI money, and they're required by the state to submit their numbers. And so we can validate whether or not they hired the people, whether they spent the money in the training, what the average wage was, and what the capital expenditure was. And with the other 70 or so percent, we have no idea. And so I talked to Carol Post about this yesterday. And what I'd like to do is ask you all to just, I'll make a motion in a second, but I'd ask you all to just approve allowing staff to research this idea and bring us back a proposed ordinance. And then by that time, you can decide whether you like the ordinance or not. But the idea is that if we are going to give tens of thousands or maybe millions of dollars to a company that's going to move here, we need to know whether they did what they said they were going to do. And ideally, when I was talking to Ms. Post, ideally we'd talk to the county in the interim also and ask the county to maybe join in with similar ordinance. And the idea is that one of the excuses in economic development is, well, some companies won't come if we make them disclose the numbers. And as Ms. Post and I were talking about it, I think she agrees with me that if a company doesn't want to disclose their numbers, we shouldn't give them money. And there's a question about whether we should be giving money to companies anyway, or just helping to build our own companies here. But at the very least, I think we need to have some validation. So here's my motion. I would like to make a motion that city legal staff research and create a draft ordinance for review by City Council on August 6, 2020. The ordinance would require that companies receiving economic development incentives or tax reductions from the City of Tampa submit sworn affidavits at least annually to affirm the number of employees, the average pay of those employees, and the amount of capital investment made that year as promised in exchange for the incentives offered.
Second.
Before the council votes, this is Morris Massey in the city attorney's office. I do want to mention to you that this program is a state program that's statutorily driven by the legislature. So we're happy to research the issue.
So my motion has nothing to do with
we need to research this, how much, whether we're preempted and how much we can regulate in that area. So that's one of the things we'd have to, before we bring back an ordinance, we'd have to research first. I just want to make sure.
That's why I asked for it to go to legal part. But this is not asking specifically about QTI because QTI is gone as of right now. All this is asking is that any company that we give incentives to, that we require them in exchange for the incentives to at least provide a sworn affidavit that says that they did fulfill or didn't fulfill the requirements of the incentive.
Mr. Chair, this is Andrea Zellman. I would just like to request, Mr. Carlson, if you could modify your motion slightly. You're asking us to both investigate the feasibility of this and present a draft ordinance. I think the first part needs to happen first because one of the things we need to determine is whether it's even appropriate for the city to legislate this. We need to be clear on who it is that may be providing incentives to companies that are being recruited to come to Tampa, and whether, to the extent the city is even providing money, perhaps we can legislate in that area. But if it's other entities providing incentives, I'm not sure.
No, this is only for city incentives. This is only for city incentives. If the county wanted to create a similar ordinance, they could do that as well. This in no way would have any impact on state incentives. And the QTI program that I mentioned for right now is gone, so it would have no impact on that anyway. This is only for incentives provided by the city. So if the city says for the next 5 years you get 0 property taxes, and in exchange for that we expect you're promising that you're going to bring 100 jobs with an average pay of whatever, and you're going to make a capital investment. Right now, there's no way to validate whether they've done that or not. All we can do is say when they first signed up that they promised to do it. All this does is it asks them to once a year put in writing whether they've done that or not, and only for city incentives.
Okay.
All right. So we have a motion from Councilmember Carlson with a second from Councilmember Dingfelder. Roll call vote on the motion.
Sierra.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before the vote, Mr. Carlson, just in regard to staff efforts, and I know legal staff has been very overburdened the last couple of months. I do agree with Ms. Zellman that we should get a report back from them before we ask them to draft an ordinance, because drafting an ordinance takes additional time and effort. So Bill, I think I like the direction you're headed, and I think it's an important matter. But I guess I'd respectfully ask you to modify the motion just to make it a 2-part motion, and after they give the staff report on this, then we can decide if we want them to draft an ordinance. But that's up to you, Bill.
And this is Andrea Zellman. Thank you, Mr. Dingfelder. That was for saying even more clearly what I was trying to say. I think the research itself may help point the direction in which the city should go, rather than getting ahead of ourselves and trying to draft an ordinance before we've analyzed the feasibility of that and the appropriateness.
All right. Councilmember Carlson, any response, comment, changes?
Yeah, Ms. Zellman, the way the motion is written right now, it says that legal staff research and create a draft ordinance. If in the research you find that it's not feasible or we're preempted, wouldn't that just shut it down automatically, or and then we wouldn't have to go? Do we need to explicitly state it in the motion?
I think it's helpful to word it that way, that we research the feasibility of creating such an ordinance, and if appropriate, draft such an ordinance. But I think the more important part is researching the feasibility, the parameters, what the existing obligations of anyone obtaining incentives already are, So I like the two-part approach that Mr. Dingfelder suggested.
Okay, so if I modify it, I'll just read it again. I would like to make a motion that city legal staff research the feasibility of an ordinance and, if allowed, create a draft ordinance for review by City Council on August 6, 2020. The ordinance would require that companies receiving economic development incentives or tax reductions from the City of Tampa submit sworn affidavits at least annually to affirm the number of employees, the average pay of those employees, and the amount of capital investment made in that year as promised in exchange for the incentives offered.
And if I may, Mr. Carlson, this is Andrea Zellman again. The only thing I would request is that you change that if allowed to if appropriate, if legally appropriate.
Okay, I'll change that.
Thank you.
All right, and we have a second from Councilman Dingfelder. Does the second stand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, anything else, Councilman Carlson?
No, thank you all. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, and then, you know, on a final note, we have some ceremonial activities for June 4th and June 18th. I sent out a memo yesterday that we reschedule and postpone the ceremonial activities, even though we're going to be meeting live and in person at the convention center, just for everyone's safety, to push those ceremonial activities forward to a later date. Not sure if it's going to be July when we'll be ready to come back to Old City Hall or further. So if I could have someone make a motion to postpone those ceremonial activities from June 4th and June 18th to a date in the future that's to be determined.
So
Chairman Miranda,
Go ahead, Councilman Miranda.
no, I'll just second Mr. Citro's motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Citro with a second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor, roll call.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you very much. That's it for me. Mr. Shelby, is there anything that you would like to add or any comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for handling the matters for the 4th and the 18th. That was a scheduling matter. Just a reminder, Council, this is, according to your calendar, the last regular virtual meeting that you'll be having. Next week, a reminder, you will be having a special call virtual workshop session solely for the purpose of conducting departmental briefings by the administration for approximately 2 hours. So your next regular meeting will be in person on June 4th at 9 a.m. at the Tampa Convention Center, 333 South Franklin Street. And I believe, Mr. Chairman, you did send out a memo to City Council recently relative to the June in-person City Council meetings for their review.
Yes, I did. I sent a memo out last night with details for everyone to look at. Of course, that's public record for anyone to see. And that's it. Unless there's any further comments or questions, if I could get a motion to receive the document.
Mr. Chairman, you recognize?
Councilman Good.
Mr. Shelby, I know you've been working on this transition to convention center. Will there be parking for council in a special location while we're convening down there?
The answer is the answer is yes, and that isn't addressed in the chairman's memo. So I'll refer you to that. And if anybody should have any questions or concerns about that, feel free to communicate that. Mr. Chairman, would you like them to communicate that through me or to your legislative aide?
Either or, whatever they're more comfortable with. We drafted the ordinance. The memo to provide all details. You know, parking placards, where to park, what entrance to use, and whatnot. But if they have any questions, please contact Lisa, my legislative aide, or Mr. Shelby. We all have the information, so whatever is most comfortable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right. And before we ask for a motion to receive and file, Mrs. Zellman, I believe, has some comments.
Just very quickly, again, on the Tampa Convention Center meeting, for those members of the public that are listening, because we have land use applicants who are, will be sending notices out within the next few weeks. The meetings, all the quasi judicial hearings, all the land use hearings, the daytime hearings, in June and July have been scheduled to take place at the people have been advised to give public notice in that regard.
All right. Thank you very much. May I have a motion to receive and file all documents?
Miranda, receive and file, Mr. Chairman, all documents today.
All right. Do we have a second? With a second from Councilmember Goods. Roll call vote.
Sierra,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Cedro,
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Great. That concludes our meeting. We are adjourned. Thank you.